I hate those
two weeks in
signs.
a, 2 weeks in a row start with giggles. Hey yo, and welcome to the AWO Journeyman podcast. My name is JD, the Blues fan, who is. I mean, what can I say? I'm just happy we're randomly back in the hunt and smack bang in the middle of the vortex. Joining me as usual is Nate, the Pies fan. Who, mate, did they have to spank the Suns? I
I don't know what
mean,
you're talking. I don't know what you're talking about. It was just an open training session in Gold Coast.
just absolutely despicable. But yes. So how you doing, Nate? Anyway,
I'm doing fantastic. Life's pretty good at the top right now.
you feeling better?
Actually, no. The cough is still lingering around. I
It
don't
seems
know
to be the
why.
thing that's lingering the most is the cough with everybody.
So yeah, don't be surprised if I mute my microphone yet again. I've got a better drink bottle this time. I got a bit of shit last week for my drink bottle. I was opening the cap too many times. It was becoming very annoying. So I got the sippy bottle ready. Yep,
Need the
got
sippy
mine.
straw.
Yep, got it ready. I do have a second bottle just in case I'm still coughing up lungs, but I should be right to go.
Yes, and no Meso that this week, but that's because would be a segment, but Baby Watch. We're currently on Baby Watch for good old Meso, so Meso will probably be away for probably I would assume the next few weeks anyway. So good luck to Meso. We hope everything goes well, mate. So we'll hopefully have some good news as of next week.
The boy has become a man.
The boy has become a man, and probably he's probably glad not to be on this week after some of the despicable things that he would have seen on Saturday. So uh, we'll get to that eventually. But boy, let's talk some footy.
What boy? I'm old man, mate.
Well, had to put it back to boy instead of boys. But let's go to Thursday night. Are you enjoying Thursday night footy?
Slowly get the thing is I slowly get used to it and then it just stops. So I think round 18
That's
is
what
the last
shits me.
Thursday or round 18 will be the last Thursday night footy, and then it's just back to Friday nights. Again, I can't complain too much about it, but in terms of entertainment, it's not been there. This one was just an absolute shellacking. Richmond didn't even fire a shot.
Yes, exactly right. So 2014, 134, played 7-11, 53. Brisbane Lions absolutely smashed Richmond at the Gabatoir on Thursday night. 81 points. It was just, like you said, it was an absolute shellacking from the beginning. It looked like the Lions were just having fun with Richmond for the most part, which it just felt harsh for a little bit there. This game was just one of those games where Richmond never really fought, like you said, never really fired a shot. Maybe a little bit in the first there, but not too much. Like it was pretty much all Lions from the get go. And I mean, we've said it before. The Gabatoir is a fortress for them. Another win there. They're just playing. Yeah, it is a real shame they did not win that grand final there a few years ago because they they realistically, they are a very deadly force while playing there. But yeah, this was all Lions from the get go. Great performances from Lockie Neal, Joe Danaher, Hugh McCluggage. Coleman was a very surprising one, but had a very solid game for Brisbane. It was good to see Hopper get back to a little bit of best as well. Taranto being down on form, they sort of needed a few people to step up, and I shouldn't say they really stepped up. I mean, they had a few players that were serviceable. Vlostone was another one of those. Nathan Broad was another one of those. What do you think about this game?
Well, when you sub off Josh Dunkley at 3/4 time for tactical reasons, that's how much fun you're having, really. They can just breathe a sigh of relief, Brisbane. The last time these two teams played, according to Damien Hardwick, people lost their jobs, lives were lost, people died. And I don't even think I'm being hyperbolic either with that. That was the elimination final. The score review with Tom Lynch's kick, where he should have just kicked it more straight. And Joe Danaher getting the crumbs off 5 Richmond defenders in the goal square, which should not have happened that late in the game. But you would have thought Richmond would have came back with a bit of vengeance, but they didn't. Post by Hoodoo yet again for them. This game, I'm not surprised by the results. I was a bit surprised by the margin. This was a game I feared in a blowout. Richmond's,
You called it.
They're not a clearance machine, though. Brisbane are. But Richmond have the midfielders. They've got Hopper back, Taranto's. Well, he's out of form recently, or more.
Well, no, I wouldn't even say he's out of form. He was just he didn't fire a shot this game. Like I would say he's been their most serviceable midfielder all season.
Yeah, 100%. Taranto is probably in most people's rolling all Australians. We joke about that. And he's probably taken all 3 Brownlow votes in any Richmond win as well. And maybe in some scrappy losses as well. Brisbane plus 78 in disposals, plus 30 inside 50s, and plus 24 in clearances, 46 to 22. Again,
wow.
Absolute shellacking. And our center clearances 22 to 5 Brisbane. And you mentioned it before. You mentioned the players. Lockie Neal is one of the best midfielders in the competition right now. Joe Daniher kicking 5 goals. Hipwood kicking a few goals and setting up a few more as well. We talk about premiership sides in the last few years, and there's a few sacrifices involved to get to that premiership. Last year, not really much of a sacrifice except for Max Holmes going down with a hamstring injury. He played very good footy last season. Nathan Jones couldn't get into the premiership side for Melbourne. Alex Rance doing his knee in 2019. This is not much of a sacrifice, but Andrew Gaff suspended in 2018. Just things like that. Premierships, they're not all sunshine and rainbows. There's some heartbreak involved. Brisbane, it may very well be because of guys like Daniel Rich not getting back into the side. Yep. Dane Zorko may not fit into the side either. I think Dane Zorko will get in eventually, but someone like Rich may not, with Coleman getting back to his best. And Jack Gunston, he was meant to fill the Dan McStay role to assist with Daniher and Hipwood up forward so they can roam around, but he can't get a game either. And seeing Jack Payne as well keep someone like Jack Rewalt goalless, very underrated defender this season.
He has been,
The thing with Brisbane now, they're going to be top 4 There's no absolute doubt about it, unless they go on an absolute form slump. Their goal, though, is to get a top 2 finish to get a home qualifying final, because the goal for them is to get a home prelim to then get themselves to the MCG for grand final.
Yeah, they realistically can. I mean, they're the only team left that can do it. We'll discuss later a team that is entering the vortex ever so nicely. But yeah, it's definitely the only team that can still push for it. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. I think the top 2 is going to be set in stone. I think both you and Port Adelaide deserve that finish anyway. Just going to quickly mention as well, Jaden Short doing his hamstring, I think, really hurts Richmond's chances of winning a few more games. He won them a fair few games off of his own boot. Realistically, literally. The Freo game, we watched him kick 3 goals from outside 50 off his own boot, and you take him away. You take away the speed as well he brings off of half back. It's going to really damage that Richmond structure. That's certain injuries really do hurt, and that's going to be one that's going to probably be a bit of a stinger for them. Let's see if they can cover it. Some of the, as we've sort of mentioned early on, some of their depth has been questionable, but again, it's starting to come into its own. But yeah, I probably I will say a few things. One more thing about Richmond as well. Marlon Pickett did not look like he looks like a shell of himself as a player. I know a lot of their players were down, but he just looks like he's got a lot on his mind, and that's going to, I reckon, be the big talking point for potentially a few weeks coming up, because if he keeps playing like he did on Thursday night, it's going to be a very, very tough time living in Melbourne with the media that goes on around here. Yeah, anything else to add?
Tyler Young, what were you doing, boy? Should have rushed it. He kept it on the bloody line, and Joe Daniher just smacks it into the Richmond's cheer squad.
You can see what he was trying to do, but it did not come off at all, and it was
that's rough. Night.
It was rough. We'll move on to Friday night football. because I don't think there's been too many other things that we can say, too many other things we can hype up more in the AWO Journeyman than a draw.
Oh, Sonny. Nah, I can't go too far with that.
I would have danced around.
But if we go into details on this game, that's where it gets a bit ugly and a bit murky. So Sydney, 6 goals, 18, 54 to Geelong, 7, 12, 54.
Jeez.
Congratulations, Sydney. You kicked yourself out of 2 points there.
I mean, even Chris Scott said in his press conference, we were absolutely dominated all day. It's just, he literally just said Sydney couldn't take their opportunities. And that's all this game came down to, was Sydney dominated play for probably, 75% of the game.
Yeah. The middle patches of the second and third quarters, they absolutely dominated. I think they kicked maybe 4 behinds in that middle patch in the second quarter and about 4 behinds in the middle patch in the third quarter.
They only sort of, I shouldn't even say they blew it out, but they only really sort of got their biggest lead in that third quarter. And it looked like for a little bit there, like, okay, here we go. They're going to start getting themselves on it. I believe that was the beginning of the third. And then straight back into the point mode. And that's it. They just kept Geelong in it the whole time. Geelong actually looked like they were also going to run away with it at one point in the fourth. They got their. This is where their sort of game. This is where I mean by their sort of game style did keep them enough in the game. They did make a few changes that did work out, I think, for them in the long run. But yeah, it was just as soon as it got close to full time, all I could sit there was thinking was, oh god, here we go. Nathan's about to lose his fucking mind, because the vortex becomes one of the most interesting fucking things with another draw. Percentage all of a sudden does become a thing for 14. Something that I don't think thought was possible. You know the comment you made earlier this year with that percentage boosting win. It definitely wasn't at the time, but it definitely has helped us now.
And you got Eagles again, so
yeah, so
absolutely.
Oh, awesome percentage boosting win at now looking back on it. Some absolute starring performances in this game from Parker and Goulden. Errol was phenomenal. He's taken his game to a complete new level. Tom Stewart, he's just backing up performance week after week since early in the season when he went out. And then a couple of surprise performances. I think Tui was very serviceable on Friday night. He probably had his best game in 12 months, I would say.
Hang on, equal most AFL games by an Irishman too, 264.
Well, that's just awesome to see. It's funny. I think I was a little bit salty about Zach Tui leaving at first, and then now it's just I love the guy again.
He's relishing.
You can't help it. You just can't help but love the guy.
What a boy.
A lot of I think there was a lot to be said about Geelong's forward line without Jeremy Cameron. It worked. To be fair, I think last week there was a spark after Jez went off, and it they got through, and they cemented that win. But I think this week they were that exposed just that little bit. Hawkins only kicking 2 goals too. Isaac Smith, no goals. Gary Rowan, 1 behind. After coming off of a massive game that he had last week, they were down on form. I think Ollie Henry was very serviceable. I think he's becoming he's going to be a very good talent for them. I think he's going to be that nice mid-sized to tall forward that will slot into that side nicely over the next few years. Every team needs that sort of a 2 to 3 goaler. I think he's doing all he needs to do at the moment. So Isaba getting subbed off as well. Did you look into that too much? Do you reckon that was just management after coming back off his injury, or?
I think it's similar to Alex Pearce last week. It's more management, but it's Geelong, so we don't know with their injuries. He may be out long term. He may be out mid term. He may be out short term. We just don't know. Yeah,
and Sydney not using their sub.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so Ryan Clark did not get on.
Oh, well, It kind of is fair enough. They've needed some big bodies down forward, Sydney, because they kept bombing it straight into DeConan and Asava. A few stats from this game, and maybe it might be the reason why it was a draw. Inside 50s, 50-50. Clearances, 31-31. And bounces, 6-6. So even Stevens, we're none the wiser on these two teams. I want to mention three Sydney players. Firstly, Angus Sheldrick. I fucked that one up. But second-year player, he's in the form of his life. He's slotting in nicely in the Sydney side right now. Pick 18 in last year's drafts, or 2021 draft. I think his first game, he was the sub. No, first game, he played against the Giants. Second game, he was the sub in Buddy's 1,000th goal. Didn't get on. He's now playing full games now for Sydney, so good on him. Shout out to Tom Hickey for his Travis Cloak impersonations. And shout out to Logan McDonald for his Jack Darling impersonations as well.
I was going to say,
chest mark drop was just
phenomenal. How good was? Did you see Buddy's reaction? Who was in the box with Buddy?
I don't know who that other player was, but
yeah, his reaction to Hickey's miss was phenomenal. Get that guy in the box more often, reacting to things, because I think that was all of our reactions, was just mouth dropped.
Didn't even hit the post. That's how bad that miss was.
It was completely crazy. Like, it's made the 8 very interesting. Geelong 9th, Sydney 13th, with Giants, Fremantle, Gold Coast, Carlton, and Richmond also vying for spots inside the 8. Now, I feel like this was a bit of a trend of the weekend. It was just absolute shellackings all around. I think it was actually said best today by Kane Corns. North Melbourne are lucky West Coast exists, but if West Coast can continue doing what they're doing today, North Melbourne might not be lucky that West Coast exists. So let's move on to Saturday's game. It was Adelaide playing North Melbourne, 21-12, 138, playing 11-6, 72. Adelaide by 66. Can you believe that Adelaide were younger in this game?
Yeah, it's only by a few months. Basically, all I've got for this is, if you've watched Adelaide destroy St Kilda about a month ago, you've seen this match between Adelaide and North Melbourne. It was a carbon copy. It's a young side. It's a young side trying to take it to Adelaide, but they're just ferocious. One of the best attacking sides in the comp. Multiple goal scorers, bags for fun. Rankin kicking 5 goals for the first time in his career. Fogarty kicking 4 goals. Tex kicking 3.
Oh, they were phenomenal. They literally just come out, play a very solid brand of football, and just do what they need to do every week. Like you said, Fogarty was very entertaining to watch. Thilthorpe was very entertaining to watch as well. They're just becoming a bit of an entertainment factor. Rankin as well. He's just, I reckon, taking his game to another level at Adelaide. Now, do you have anything else you want to say about Adelaide?
In regards to Adelaide, though, they've got Essendon next week at Marvel. That's an 8-point game. That's the game where if Adelaide can win that, then I'm more convinced they'll make finals. I'm still not convinced entirely. They've still got the residue of that rebuild from a few years ago. So if they do miss finals, I'm not going to be surprised. But they're building along nicely for this season, for next season, and for the next 5 years as well. And I won't waffle on anymore about Adelaide. I do think they're in with a very nice percentage at the moment. There is a lot to be said about Adelaide. They are playing like I said, a very sustainable brand of football, but I think it's up to whether some of their, for one, bodies hold up and just some of the fitness of some of the young kids. But I'm not going to waffle, but I do want to get into North Melbourne. Positives for North Melbourne, just quickly off the bat. Their kids were pretty good. Their kids are carrying this team at the moment. Harry Sheasel, Bailey Scott, George Wardlow, absolutely putting this team on their backs and just carrying it through to the other side. Even Taron Thomas was quite serviceable as well, another young player. But let's get into the fact that when it comes to their senior leaders, so when it comes to players like a Griffin Logue, like a Ben Mackay, like Davies Uniacke, I won't blast Nick Larkey. He's been too good this season to put on blast. Somebody like a Cam Zerha,
somebody like a Jaden Stevenson, a great example. Jaden Stevenson should be leading from the front. Players like Cam Zerha should be leading from the front, but they're just getting caught up in. Basically, they're the ones that are getting caught out and bringing no effort to the table, and they're basically what's causing some of these massive losses for North Melbourne. If their senior players were able to bring it every single week, we'd be seeing a lot different. Basically a lot different Adelaide's side, North Melbourne side. But the fact that it's only the kids who can only do so much every week, getting their bodies absolutely battered around, it's just not. That is not sustainable football. They've got some captains that really need to be looked at in the off season, and I know that's probably harsh to say, but to me, it's just they don't really have any leaders, and that's their biggest problem. It's been their problem pretty much since they got rid of players like Harvey, since they got rid of players like Petrie. They just haven't really had some big on-field presence as a leader since then. Simpkin tries to be, but I still don't think that he really, really pushes himself to be the leader of these boys. And Zeeble was a really good leader for a long time, but has fallen away in previous seasons and just hasn't been able to get himself to the form that probably he would like. Well, and probably not that he needs to be in. I mean, look at his age, look at what his body's been through as a North Melbourne player. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to be said. I think Kane Corns said it perfectly today, which was Adelaide and North Melbourne started their rebuilds at the same time. These teams should be at the exact same point. This is the measuring stick for both clubs, realistically. And Adelaide should be absolutely absolutely be proud of themselves, I should say, because at the end of the day, that's how you do a rebuild. And North Melbourne have gone down the Carlton route, where it's going to take them another 3 to 5 years to get themselves back to any sort of relevancy. We're going to be talking shit about them for as long as we do this podcast, it feels like, until they can find a way to get themselves right. But I'll stop ranting there. But yeah, it's just North Melbourne's leaders are just non-existent to me.
13 losses in a row for North Melbourne.
You can't tell me that they're in any better position than they were in last season.
And it feels like there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's just one good draft year away, maybe two, maybe some reinforcement, but we just don't know with the coaching personnel they've got and the leadership they've got as well. And the contracts they've got. Now, salary cap, you've got to spend at least 85% of your salary cap. So certain players will be on at least 500,000 or more. And you'd be like, how the fuck did they get on that amount of money? So someone like a Jaden Stevenson, someone like a Callum Coleman-Jones, they're on big money. Someone like Griffin Logue is on big money. Someone like Ben Mackay will be on big money next season, regardless of where he's at, whether it's North Melbourne, Essendon, Port Adelaide, or someone who's in desperate need of a key defender. Their youngsters are good, though. Anyone under 21, that's the silver lining for North Melbourne. Hit the draft one more time and nail it. They finally nailed it in the draft last season, where instead they went with someone like 2 years ago, they went with Will Phillips over Logan McDonald. Now, Will Phillips is a good midfielder. However, I'm pretty sure Nick Larkey would have preferred someone like Logan McDonald over Will Phillips.
I believe Will Phillips has become a bit of a whipping boy.
That's a bit harsh on him. He had, I think, glandular fever last season, which impacted it. So he's finally, he's back to full fitness. He'll come good, but compared to a Wardlaw, Sheasel, you got Braden George already out for the season with a knee. He's going to be tough as nails as well. And then obviously hit the draft. I don't know what they're going to be drafting next season, North Melbourne, unless they want to target Harley Reid or another young midfielder to build up their core midfield for the next 5 years. We don't know. We don't know.
To me, it's potentially what they need at the moment is potentially some key pillars. So maybe if they can find a key forward in the draft, a key defender, potentially a ruckman, like a really solid ruckman would really help them at the moment, like a young kid that's going to develop. And like you said, maybe some fringe midfielders that they can potentially develop into some gems as well. I do think there's positives that's coming for them. I just think at the moment it's not the kids that are letting them down. It's not the development that's letting them down. It's the leaders that are letting them down, which I think is actually a good segue into the next game, because that's exactly what's happening to Freo. Is
I was
their
gonna say,
leaders are letting them down at the moment. So 16-6, 102, played 11-7, 73. Bulldogs absolutely steamrolled Fremantle in the final quarter to win by 29 points. I'm going to quickly just go through Mason's points. Then we'll put in our own 2 cents. So Mason sent us through some points to go through. He said he'll do his usual bias, but some discussion on the Dogs Freo for us. Darcy beat English. He wanted us to specifically know that, of course.
fair enough.
Sarong, best mid for the Dockers. I think we all can agree for that this year. Andy Brayshaw, quiet, and we could probably say the same for his season as well. It's been relatively quiet compared to last season. Jamara Ugle-Hagan, probably best game.
The Melbourne game last season where he kicked 5 goals, that's his best game.
Yeah, and I also thought that he's been dropping. I mean, you probably watched the Sunday Footy Show similar to me, and they were discussing about his drop of the ball. And one, of course, Lloydo loves to get the ball out every chance that he gets, but they weren't wrong. He was definitely kicking the ball very odd. I mean, he kicked the ball lace side on his boots. Very odd decision. But yeah, several defensive mares from Cox, Ryan, giving Jamari Ugle-Hagan no respect. Can agree with that. They did let him run a little bit free. They did need to give him a bit more respect, but still think Ryan is very serviceable. It was more Cox that probably needed to stick closer. Bont doing Bont things. We discuss that all the time. Bont does his usual Bont shit every week, which I actually think potential. This could be the year that he wins the Brownlow. We'll see. What were the Docker coaches thinking with 15 minutes left, down by 11, to have Johnson and Raz in the middle and then taking Darcy off after conceding and then putting Tracy over Jackson in the middle? So he's obviously assessed one of the final plays that sort of has messed with them. There's actually a few thoughts I have on some of the Freo final 10 to 15 minutes. There were some decisions they made that were quite awful. But I'll finish off with, he put mentally weak. After that Luke Ryan call, we fell apart and gave up. And I do think that that's the perfect point to go off from, because that's where it all went wrong. There was a Luke Ryan, of course, we'll go into it. Now, this is warranted from Freo fans to be a little bit pissed off about, but you bounce back from this as well. You shouldn't go into your shells like they did. So, of course, Luke Ryan goes up, goes on his back, gets called unrealistic attempt despite touching the ball. Pisses off Mason like no tomorrow. I was actually annoyed as well, because I was literally like, hey, wait a second. But yeah, so give it to, of course, Rory Lobb. Kicks the goal. Tide completely changes. And then straight out of the middle, free kick again. Bont straight into the forward line again. Waitman, I think it was Waitman, goal.
Yeah,
and
Waitman.
And then once again, same thing. They miss a Freo free kick that was crucial, a holding free kick, and then straight into the Dogs forward line, goal. So he has some warrant in the grievances, but also they did nothing to stem that tide. Their defense let them down in that last 10 minutes, and a lot of their midfield let them down in the last 10 minutes. They were firmly in that game. They got themselves ahead by 2 points off a Sean Darcy goal, just to go down by 29 points. It was, they did not have another trick after Luke Ryan. Basically, they just didn't bounce back after that Luke Ryan free kick against. What are your comments on this game?
What more does Jai Amos need to fucking do? He kicks 4 goals here. He's done more than enough of his fair share. Michael Walters kicking 4 goals as well. It's a slap in the face to those two boys.
Oh, they were phenomenal. Amos is just, like we said, the cat's out of the bag. He's a star of the future. He's going to be kicking bags for Freo for a long time, hopefully, because he looks like the player. He finally looks like the player that they need in that forward line. And isn't it just good to see Sonny doing Sonny things? But yeah, unfortunately, they just let the Dogs get on top of them, and it was really harsh to watch. The momentum stem for a change from an umpire call, but as we said, they just didn't wrestle it back at all.
Nat Fife getting subbed off with a foot injury. We're not sure how many weeks it could be. It's either a flare up, or it could be a flare up, or it could just be just precautionary as well. The Dockers, they've got the Blues Sunday twilight at home. Then they come back to Melbourne at MCG against Collingwood, and then they've got a home game against Sydney. So next 3 games will be, I hate to say it, season defining for them. They could win those 3 games, but at the same time, they can lose those 3 games. They're up there with a team like an Essendon or a St Kilda. They're very untrustworthy. They can win the best games. They can then lose to bloody anyone. So we don't know with Freo.
Moving on to the next Saturday game. Definitely not going to touch on this for too long. I think it's too harsh to. I think we've we've hyped them up for a few weeks, and it's just harsh to talk about. 5-12-42 plays 18-12, 120, Collingwood by 78 points, and give Gold Coast the reality check of the century and say, hey, boys, this is the level of football you got to play at if you want to play with the big boys. And yeah, they didn't have a trick. It was genuinely, it was 90-10 at one point. It was an absolute shellacking by Collingwood. First positive for Gold Coast, first sellout since 2013. The Collingwood effect. We joked and said the Suns effect, but after this game, it's going. I'm reversing that. It's the Collingwood effect. You've done well away from home this season. I believe you set a new record where you've had the most amount of fans turn up to away games this season. So well done to Collingwood fans turning up basically all over the country. And why wouldn't you? They're playing an absolute great brand of football. This was just a game where there's not much to say about it. We say that usually during shellackings. Gold Coast have a lot to look at when it comes to the tape for this one. I don't really know what else to go into with this one.
This felt like a Collingwood training session away from home. It may very well have been a Pies home game. The crowd reaction. Apparently, there were certain Collingwood supporters who bought 3-game memberships, 3-game Gold Coast memberships to get into Metricon or fucking Spurbank Stadium. I'm not going to get sued for that, hopefully.
Oh, you got to beep that.
Ooh, beep. Nah, fuck the beeps. Pies plus 75 disposals, plus 17 Sun 50s. It wasn't as big of a domination as it was compared to Brisbane against Richmond, but Queensland saw 2 shellackings. If you had any criticisms about Nick Dacos, shut the fuck up. 36 disposals, 8 clearances, 10 score involvements, 10 fucking tackles, and a goal.
So well and truly in the Brownlow hunt.
I saw a post by the AFL on Facebook. Who would you prefer, Nick Dacos or Matt Rowell? Majority of comments, Matt Rowell, pretty much shitting on Nick Dacos, saying, I prefer someone who earns their disposals. Nick Dacos earned all these disposals. He earns everyone's respect at this point. No debate who's getting the 3 votes in this one. When Billy Frampton's kicking running goals from 60 metres for fun, you're fucked.
You know that something's wrong.
As far as Gold Coast go, I have never been so disappointed in my life.
We were like disappointed parents.
We are. He was ready to go on their P's, and they just forgot to put their seatbelt on. They forgot to check the rearview mirrors. Yeah.
They fucked the test once again.
They fucked it from the start. I hope Gold Coast fails. I hope they fold. And I hope Stewie Drew's car breaks down. He has to walk the training every single fucking day.
There is talk now, and of course it's going to ramp up after a game like this. If Hardwick says that he wants to coach the Suns, guess what, Stewie do? You're gone. And
roll out the red carpet for him.
Yeah, and I do think that potentially they're at that point because this was the game where we hyped it up as the test, and it had to be the test. It was the game where they had to come and win, or at least make this a very close contest. At the very least, show us something. But they just had nothing. They couldn't throw a thing at Collingwood. They made move, and I did feel for Stewie Doo. He made moves. He was throwing people around, and it just did not work. Absolutely nothing worked.
The Suns have Port Adelaide, and the Suns have not beaten Port Adelaide since 2011.
God damn.
But it was a good.
Is that their first or second year?
First year. That was the game where Suns' first ever win.
Wow, so they haven't beaten them since their first ever win. That is crazy.
And they're going to have to beat Port Adelaide to stay in the finals hunt.
Yeah, it looks like it's becoming a bit dire for the Suns. They've failed a few tests against some crucial opponents, being Carlton, Collingwood, and now potentially Port Adelaide next week. But we'll move into the next game because I can tell you now, Port Adelaide didn't fail the test on Saturday night. They almost did. But a absolute savage Dan Houston, who slotted after the siren goal for Port to win by 4 points. So it was 10-14-74, played 11-12-78. What a game this was.
Just the ending. The game itself, very scrappy, not enjoyable, not something I'd watch on replay, but the ending, whether you want to analyze it in depth or for the intensity for it, up to you. But good ending, just not a good overall game in general.
Mate, some people have Melbourne versus Collingwood in their best games of the year. I can tell you now, this game is one of the best games of the year then.
Well, give me whatever fucking diet they're on, because I want to be in some sort of fantasy land as well. Port
Adelaide after the siren, Dan Houston celebrating in style. And this was it's funny. They called it an Elias special. And I was like, what? That made no sense on commentary. But yeah, this was clear by about a solid foot, this kick.
Yeah,
now you said he ran off his line. I think he ran onto his line, which you're allowed to do.
I made a fucking error. I had to look at the messages. Okay. I meant to say he was meant to run on his line.
Okay, because he definitely ran onto his line, which for anybody who's confused, because I did see some Essendon fans saying he ran off his line. And I'm like, yeah, guess what? It's in the rules that you are allowed to run onto your line to give you a bit of an arc. So Dan Houston, ice in his veins, brilliant goal. Jabs, sorry, mate. It was he was devastated. That's all I can say.
Inconsolable, whatever that word is.
I mean, the AFL, but yeah.
If the AFL want any ideas for a little web series, whether it's on YouTube or their own website, Table for Three. Get yourself Gary Rowan, Jamie Elliott, now Dan Houston, kicking goals after the siren to beat Essendon. I won't say how good, but Essendon, a little message. You can't really leave a lot to be desired and expect a win over Port Adelaide. When you got Wiedemann and Wright not kicking goals, Darcy Parish kicking 0 goals for, Nick Martin, very good season he's having, but anything but clutch in those last few minutes. Andrew Phillips, that centre clearance, but I think it was his own centre clearance, just punch it straight forward, wanted Essendon to get the ball inside forward 50, and then Parish had to kick that point, and then Port Adelaide were able to get out because of that. And just the lack of scrambling as well. Nick Martin just hacking it straight to Houston. They want their time again.
I would like to bring up the hack out and why that was caused. Now, again, it was too many players flooding backwards. They have had way too many players behind the ball, and that was crucial in those dying seconds. And that's something that teams do a lot, where it's the hack out. And I think it was said best by Lloydie earlier today that Collingwood play this best, right? That situation. They keep the ball in tight and they don't just hack it out. They wait for the situation to develop. Now, it hasn't failed for Collingwood as of yet where the time has run out. So clearly you can do it. You can keep it in tight, and then work out the situation a little bit better. As opposed to what Essendon did, which was drag every player back that they could and basically make every player do the same role, which they didn't need to do. Because if they did get out, there was no chance they had of scoring again. They only had Peter Wright forward of the ball. Basically, every time that you drag back every player like that and have 17 men playing that wall or trying to play goalkeeper, you're going to get caught out on the 50 line and have this sort of thing happen to you. So it's definitely something that Essendon's probably going to go back to the drawing board and go, okay, less of you do that because we don't need that. But yeah, there was some very crucial performances in this game from players like Houston. Anyway, Rosie was phenomenal last night, and Zach Butters is just continuing on his great season. That's probably potentially a 1, 2, 3 for the game, depending on if you have Parrish or Merritt in there.
Throw in Kane Farrell. Kane Farrell played his best ever game. He can get a sneaky Brownlow vote for his efforts.
Sneaky one, you reckon?
I reckon, yeah. 25 disposals, 10 score involvements, and a goal from outside 60 as well.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get Kane Farrell the cheeky one.
What a boy!
But what a boy! Like, he's definitely ineligible, but what a boy! Not too much I have to add to this game, other than the fact that Port's streak was in doubt. I reckon you were dusting the uke off there for a little bit, but the streak continues.
I reckon Port's doing this on purpose. That Ollie Florent being 2 meters short put the uke away. I thought I'll get it back out eventually, but 12 wins in a row for Port, 7 of those under 15 points, and I think 7 of those times they've trailed in the final quarter. So they're kind of like Collingwood of last season. They're just finding ways to win. It's not too emphatic. It's not going to boost their percentage a lot. So they'll get these wins eventually, and it should hopefully be enough to get a top 2 finish for Port. This Port and Essendon, first time playing at the MCG since 1998.
Wow. So we'll move on to Sunday games, where I was a very happy boy today, where Carlton played Hawthorn, 7-10, 52, played 17-10, 112, Carlton by 60 points in a percentage
boosting win.
There it is, bud. I've been waiting to have one of those come up. But yeah, this was genuinely ended up being a percentage boosting win, which was hilarious. Carlton just keep their finals chances alive. Miraculously. Can you say it miraculously?
I reckon you say that better than Harry Mackay's snaps.
Yes, that's some of those snaps that dropped short today were absolutely diabolical. But we can't deny the boy had a very good game today. 2 goals, 3, but he was just all over the ground.
Yeah,
and he also set Charlie up a few times beautifully as well. So there was just some solid performances all around from Carlton, keeping Hawthorn to no goals in the first half. Then it was, to be fair, very good fight back from Hawthorn, kicking 7 goals in the second half. Very serviceable themselves. I still think they've got a very good young list. I actually heard recently somebody say that they're not well coached, and I think that's so far from the truth. I would say Sam Mitchell does some of the best moves that I've seen of a young coach in a while. This was just a game that Carlton, as we said, Carlton turned up to play. We put Charlie Curnow and Cotton Wool. That's how confident we were of winning this one. Went in without a genuine ruckman, which, to be fair, Lloyd Meek did tear us apart all day in that sense. But he just didn't do. They just couldn't capitalize on too much, though, the Hawthorn midfielders, because that's where we basically dominated them, was in the midfield. It was great to see X Factor player, a player like Jack Martin and Lockie Fogarty play very good games. Fog, arguably, very damn serviceable. And for Carlton fans, I think I speak for all of us in saying that it's damn good to see Cunningham back. And I didn't think it, but we have been missing that boy quite badly the last few seasons. So good to see him back out on the track. But this this win was basically birthed out of the midfield. Carlton dominated Hawthorn in there. It was Chera, Doherty, Akers, Cripps, Walsh, the usual suspects. Like I said, Carlton keep their season alive. Anything else you want to add?
Can you hear that? Hello? Can you hear that?
Hear what?
It's Carlton. They're coming.
Oh my God.
Fucking hook, line, and sinker. It was just very good.
Because we've had audio issues. So I was like, what are we is there like a ring or?
They know we're coming. Carlton, good to see him play fast footy. Can you do it against Freo? Can you do it against Port? Can you do it against Collingwood next month? That's going to be that's the big test for Carlton. I think you can do it. I think Carlton can do it, Richmond. They can sneak their way up. I think we're going to get the
reality check of the lifetime once we play you.
No, I think Carlton can. Now, you've got Port, you've got Collingwood, you've got Melbourne. So you've got 3 top 4 clashes for the last 8 games of the season. You've got to win at least 2 of those and then consider yourselves properly back. I know I'm not trying. I don't want to downgrade this win. It's a very good win, very good watch. But can you do it against the better side?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Do it, and then you're back. You're right back into the finals hunt. You're in the vortex, just not in the finals top 8 hunt just yet.
I think if we can leapfrog Fremantle next week, and get ourselves into the basically just knocking on the door of the 8, and then like you said, have a win or 2 in those big games against Melbourne. In those games against Port Adelaide. I mean, Port, we do match up well against Port, but this Port side is a completely different Port side, I would say. And Collingwood, we just got to bring our A game that week, because I think we've got to stop buying into the hype of the actual game itself and just go out and play football against Collingwood, because I think that's what happened last time. We got too caught up in the Collingwood versus Carlton game itself, when we realistically, and I think you guys do this well, is just look at it as it's another game. It's the next game.
Well, not in a disrespectful way, but it's more of
no. It's just it's the best way to look at it, is going on to the next week, playing the next team. You don't look at it as anything special. You just look at it as, we have to get this win this week.
Yeah. So Collingwood's Undertaker and Carlton is Jeff Hardy. Able to earn respect, may not win, but obviously you can. I don't know why I'm making that comparison.
that's a weird one, but fair enough. We'll move on, because we don't want to waffle on too much. We'll just quickly say the Hawthorn headache was non-existent today. As I think you put it best, the only headache that was out there was for Sam Mitchell.
No, the commentator said Sam Mitchell has a mighty headache or 2, and I just thought, it's the fucking Hawthorn headache. That's why. How fucking instrumental is someone like Sicily to Hawthorn? If he's not playing, they just go to dust.
Absolutely, it's very evident that if they don't have their leaders, and we've mentioned this with someone like a Hawthorn, and I think it's very evident with West Coast, if they don't have their leaders, they just sort of don't really have another go-to in that sense. They're slowly coming up, though. I do think that Hawthorn's going to rise up a lot quicker than, say, a North Melbourne, than, say, a West Coast. So I do think that Hawthorn potentially, even as of next season, depending on their draft pool, could be pushing themselves up the ladder a little bit better. But again, today just wasn't their day.
They're just too proud of a side to be dead last.
But another team that has found themselves into the vortex somehow, they kicked themselves into the vortex, some would say, is Melbourne, who lost today to the Giants by 2 points. It was 5-15-45, played 7-5-47. As I said, Giants by 2 points. Did you watch this game? I elected to watch was watching, of course, the Carlton game, and then went and watched the other game. So what did you observe watching this? This it seems like a bit of a dismal affair.
All right. It's still in my mind, so I don't have all the notes of it just yet, but I'm able to recollect a few things. So before the game, 6 degrees in Alice Springs, raining as well. The sun was not out for this one. I think the commentators went up there and thought, fuck it, it's going to be Alice Springs. We don't really need much in terms of wet weather gear, but they were shivering up there.
How wrong they were.
And I think it's a Melbourne thing as well, because they saw the big-ass road train behind the goals and like, what the fuck is that thing? It's a fucking road train. They're meant to be that long. So there was a road train behind the goals. I'm not sure what the sponsor was for that one, but it was good to see. It was about 40 meters long too.
That's amazing. But yeah, it seemed like a bit of a dismal affair today. Didn't seem like there was too many standouts, except for another man joining the 40 club this week, which was Jack Viney with 41 disposals.
Oh, good on him. And let's all clap our hands together for Melbourne. Welcome to the Vortex.
Yeah, well,
you put yourselves there.
How the fuck did they find themselves in the Vortex? They had 73 inside 50s today, 27 more than the Giants, and still couldn't find a way to put them away. I cannot believe that Melbourne, of all teams, who I reckon for the good little chunk of the season at the start there, I was really hyping them up as a top 4 finish, have just absolutely crumbled themselves basically back into this vortex. So it's going to be tough for them. I think it's hard to get out of here.
They'll be on top. They'll be tied on points with Dogs and soon to be St Kilda are up by 8 points with 90 seconds to go. But Melbourne plus 70 disposals, 47 to 28 clearances overall, centre clearances 14 to 2. So they get it inside 50 straight after a clearance, and they don't fucking use it properly. They got Sam Taylor and Nick Haynes down there, and Kydon Iden's having a good season as well for the Giants. But the D's last 4 games: 8-13 against the Blues, 8-18 against the Pies, 8-15 against Geelong, now 5-15 against Giants. I'm not going to touch on the microphone again, but Melbourne, you put yourselves in the vortex.
They kicked themselves into it.
And you said this in their mid-season review. Shaky. Very shaky. Very fucking shaky at this point. We don't know where they're going to land up in September. They could land in 4th. They can land as low as fucking 8th spot and still cause damage. And they can also get knocked down straight sets. So we can't really read too much into Melbourne. They're very untrustworthy. If there was a top 4 for untrustworthy sides, they'd be a lock at this stage, except for the bottom teams. But
I think there's also something to be said about the fact that they've also hidden basically what's going on with Clayton Oliver as well, because we don't know what it had to be the hamstring the whole time.
No. If we're big footy nuffies, there's more into it. But no, we're sticking to hamstring.
We'll stick to hamstring. But to be fair, I do think that this was very, very piss poor from Melbourne to basically say, oh, he's only going to be a week, and then have it delay out, and then have it delay out again. I do think that hurts your trust with your fans a little bit, but that's a completely different story, because at the end of the day, they've kicked themselves into this position and have to now kick themselves out of it realistically. So, as you said, shaky. Let's see what Melbourne can do in this in the last part of the season. I'm actually happy to be playing them while they're in the current form that they're in. So, hopefully this trend continues.
The Giants have won 4 of the last 5. They're in 10th spot at the end of this round. We're starting to like this Orange team. I still don't think they're a final side, though, but their top-end talents just got them out of the bottom 4, bottom 6 as well. They're going to have 2 first-round draft picks in next season's draft. Who knows what they're going to do with it? They've got salary cap relief. They may relieve a few more as well. So they're setting themselves up nicely for the rest of this season and also for next season as well. So it's not going to be too much of a rebuild for the Giants. But for the Ds, the next 3 games will be very telling if they're going to stay in the top 4 or fall out completely. They've got a very good draw after the Saints. They've got Brisbane Lions in 2 weeks at the G. They've got another tough one as well after that. But then it becomes pretty easy for Melbourne, except for a team like Carlton. And they got to go up to Sydney final game of the season as well. So whenever they get tested, and this was a test, they keep failing. They lose to Freo at home. They get very shaky against a team like Hawthorn. They can beat Collingwood. Lockie Hunter could be ruthless against Collingwood, but he can miss so many tackles against fucking Giants players.
It's astounding, isn't it? I just can't believe the position that they've put themselves into. That's Melbourne for you. But there is, I think, some credit to be said at the position that the Saints have put themselves into, as the game is literally just finished for St Kilda v Eagles. With, to be fair, let's give the Eagles, I think, a bit of props here. So 12-5-77 played 12-13-85. St Kilda by 8 points. Eagles, you turned up. And that's the main thing. That's all that was called of you, basically.
And credit to their fans. Win or lose big, they turn up.
They ignored the calls of the West Australian,
But
which was, I don't know if you saw it, but basically the West Australia was calling for fans to boycott the first quarter.
The fuck off. Unless they're in cahoots with criminals or certain politicians or whatever, don't boycott fucking footy games. I don't want to bring politics into it, but it's sport. It's an escape from life. And then whether you lose by 150 plus points or by 8 points here, show up, have a bit of fun. And Optus Stadium is a very good stadium as well. Now, can the Eagles win another game this season?
Now it's been looking a bit more likely,
There you
but
go.
I do think that I'm still scared for what's coming as of next week. For those who don't know, they played the Lions at the Gabba, so that's going to potentially be one of the biggest maulings of the season. It's got potential to be a 200+ win.
Now, just going back to St Kilda, they would be filthy in some regard to not get any percentage out of this game.
Yep.
Now, I've talked about Freo potentially doing a reverse Carlton. I think St Kilda could do a Carlton. They've been inside the 8 the entire season. They're looking shaky. They could fall out in the final game of the season. Now, Carlton had 23 rounds. St Kilda have 24 rounds. So this could be just a little bit worse. And they got Brisbane. They got Brisbane in the final game of the season. We've got Adelaide against West Coast. And Essendon could get a cheeky win over Collingwood. And Geelong play the Dogs at Goomba. So with certain results for the last few rounds of the season and what could happen in the final round of the season, who knows? But this vortex is just, I'm sitting from my perch at the top. I'm looking down and it's just absolute mayhem right now with what's going on there.
I mean, the fact that we are now sitting at 4th to 15th,
yeah,
they can make finals. They can be in the top 8. You have to look this up at some point and see if this has ever happened, because I can never recall of like anything being this big and potential of this many changes. Because realistically, let's just throw some hypotheticals out. Melbourne go to shit, drop out of the 8. St Kilda go to shit, drop out of the 8. Essendon drop out.
No, I'm thinking Essendon go up to fucking 4th.
Well, potentially, yeah. Even Essendon sneaking into the top 4. Like things that you never would have thought could happen at the start of the year would be, probably a midway point. Carlton making finals, Sydney making finals, Giants potentially sneaking in.
Well, you can throw the Suns in as well. Richmond with a caretaker coach can sneak in the finals.
There's a lot to play out when it comes to this final part of the year, and it's become probably one of the most it's funny because a lot of people called for footy to be very even, and we've got it right now. This is some of the most entertaining things to watch right now is watching all these teams just shuffle every week, go up and down, up and down. Who knows where half these teams are going to end up? So I definitely think it might be fun to try to do a ladder in a few weeks and just see if we can try and predict any of this shit. This is an arrow in spirit of Meso. Colin Young, you piece of shit. I'm just going.
His words or yours?
I'm going from I think he's probably said this once or twice, but I'm just going from like a Freo fan perspective. The clash between Freo and Colin Young has been well documented for the last few seasons. Colin Young in 2019 said that they are going nowhere, Fremantle, unless they make some big changes to their list and their coaching staff. he's been very instrumental in basically getting a few players out of Fremantle. That would be Lobb, Logue, Akers, and Brad Hill. Now, he's also been called a conflict of interest by club great Matthew Pavlich in September 2022, based on those three of those trades, Lobb, Logue, and Akers, because he realistically does not like the Fremantle Football Club. He clashes with the Fremantle Football Club, yet he basically at one point managed half their list. So you can imagine the pain that they go through when it comes to Colin Young. And the reason I'm arrowing him for Meso is the fact that Henry is finally putting together a very serviceable and actually quite a nice season for himself. And he's a Colin Young managed player. So he is more than likely going to basically leave the club and guarantee he'll leave for next to nothing, because that's what Colin Young likes to do to Fremantle. He likes to bend them over and butt fuck them. So Colin Young, go fuck yourself. You're a piece of shit. Freo are good. I don't know. I can't think of anything else other than the fact that, realistically, they probably cannot wait for him to go, because I think at the end of the day, that means only one player potentially is left managed by him, and he's not going anywhere, and that's Sonny Walters. So, Colin Young, you've been arrowed. Not my best work, but
let's go break some hearts.
Mid-season draft. Number 1. He's the boy who I think deserves a bit of praise for the way he's come into this team and really stepped up. Boys, it's Ryan Marrick. Or Marriage, however you want to say it. However people say it. But yeah, number 1 in the 2023 mid-season draft, recruited as a key forward by the West Coast Football Club. Today was very serviceable with 2 goals, 13 disposals, and a very crucial 9 marks. So, definitely showing he's ready for AFL level, I would say, or at least on the cusp of it, because we will say there's going to be a few players who they're going to need to look at and potentially need to go back to the waffle when they can. But definitely think that Ryan Marrick is somebody who should be in the best 22 for West Coast. He's been more than enough for their side this year, and may as well say it. Welcome to the Boys Club.
You remember this, pal? You're a boy in a man's world.
2-club player, pick 12 in the 1999 AFL draft. Now, John, you grew up with Koutafidis, and Port Adelaide and Geelong fans grew up with Paul Koularides. Now, Port had to nail this one because pick 13 was Bob Murphy. But what did Paul Koularides do? He only played 3 games for Port Adelaide and then got delisted. Picked up by Geelong in the 2004 preseason draft, where he went on to play another 17 games. I've lost fucking track of this guy. He was not that useful. I've dubbed him the most toxic player in the AFL.
Oh my God.
Do you want to know why? Do you want to know why? You'll find out at the end of season award show.
Oh, okay. That's a fair one, actually. Oh God.
All right, I'll spell his name though. It's Koularitis. He's got a cheeky Brownlow vote in 2004. He played a total of about 21 games, 4 goals, 10 behinds, 5 free kicks, 4 and 13 free kicks against. So Paul Koularides, welcome to the Stephenson Warrior Hall of Fame.
It's Ted Cash time.
Start at Forbidden Door.
Yep.
So, of course, took place in the 10-man tag between BCC and Elite. Was representing the BCC, old big, tall, and sexy. So, geez, he stood out. Wasn't he MVP of this match? Hey, don't you talk shit. Don't talk shit. He was MVP of this match. he was actually, to be fair, he actually was very, very good in this match. He hit some very nice moves on Ishii. Had a very fun little chop battle with Ishii as well. So yeah, I don't know about you, but I enjoyed the work that he put out in this match. Yeah, what was your favorite part of Forbidden Door?
He knocked Ishii on his ass, didn't he? With that chop.
Yes, he did.
Oh, that was my favorite moment, though. That was about
It was the moment when he basically knocked it. Looked like he knocked out Ishii. That was phenomenal.
But it was, it's BCC and the Elites in the feud that will never fucking die.
Never.
Which kind of leads us into Dynamite because what is it?
Boom!
Dynamite. So the Elite defeating Dark Order, but it was what happened after the match with the BCC attacking the Elites because the feud will not fucking die. But so did Takeshita coming out to attack. All he did was just put a knee into Jackson.
I know, it was brilliant, but still,
he didn't do anything. But the trench coat.
It's beautiful, isn't it? He's now rocking this this weird trench coat thing that's it's like, you know what? You're a boy. What a boy.
But he was not affiliated with BCC, but now he kind of is. So that's a little bit. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. But what the hell was going on with his match this week? Warrior Wrestling 30, Friday Night Lights in Chicago. Pretty much a high school football field he wrestled on. He wrestled a bloke by the name of Warhorse. The match itself was pretty much just it was a bit of a circus. There's nothing really much to analyze, but a certain move that he did. Just if you don't like Takeshita now, I don't know what to tell you. So he sets Takeshita up outside. He pulls that, I don't know what, that 10-yard stick with the NFL. He yanks the chain, gives Warhorse a low blow, brings him over to the hurdles, knocks him on his ass, and then Takeshita goes, you know what? I'm going to run 4 fucking hurdles to give him a fucking knee to the head.
It was amazing.
It was the greatest thing I've ever seen.
You know what's funny? All 3 of us in the group chat sent it to each other. So you sent it to me, I sent it to you, and Mason sent it to both of us.
And Meso posted in the group without checking his fucking Instagram.
Yeah, because we had both. That was one of the best spots I've spot of the year for me. Spot of the year.
And to make things better, Takeshita won this match in about 20 minutes. Did not like, though, Warhorse kicking out 3.1, but a win's a win. Oh. Fuck off, Warhorse. Takeshita with the win. And that is good old Takeshita watch.
Takeshita.
And that's pretty much it for me. I won't waffle on too much.
No. I was going to say that's probably the best point to leave it is probably there because there's not too much else to go on about this week. It's just been like we said, it's a fun week. It's a watch this space. It's just going to be fun. It's fun to watch the next few weeks because AFL is, like I said, it's probably as much as it's turning some fans away, it's definitely keeping some fans because the Vortex has created probably one of the funnest years that we're going to have in a very long time.
It's such good shit.
It's such good shit. Whoever booked this is great. So I am JD for Nate and for Meso, which as once again, hopefully we have good news as of next week. We're on baby watch. But we are the AWO Journeyman. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. Give us a like, share, and a subscribe. And please drink more water.
And don't forget to do your taxes. Oh, don't. That's not funny. That's a serious message.
I wasn't ready for you to. I was not ready for a second message.
Oh, I should have done the Skinner thing. Oh yeah, taxes.
Taxes.
When he does the fingers, he's talking taxes.
Well, make sure when you do your taxes that you don't hurl it into a. Actually, no, just cut it. Cut this shit.